Welcome to the Excitable Gentleman, a podcast where we talk about all things, whether they be movies, TV, video games, music, et al., or
Pop
none
culture
of the
shit.
above. Yeah, pretty much. I'm Brandon.
I'm Denard.
Indeed.
Oh. So, yeah, we gave y'all, 2 full weeks?
Basically, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
2 weeks.
we're doing this 6 days after even Marvel was like, okay, spoiler zone is done.
Yeah, this is probably going to be, the last big, cultural viewing event, weekend type of deal, because this came out with, Avengers came out Friday, Game of Thrones came out on Sunday with the Battle of Winterfell,
Mm-hmm.
and we haven't had something like this since, back when, the Stephen King miniseries used to come out, where
No shit. I mean, The Stand, these were...
Yeah, where it was just Sunday, June 7th, everybody came home because you had to watch it then.
Appointment viewing.
Yeah, because now I don't think there is going to be any more of that for a long time. Not until the next Avatar movie comes out, where everybody's like, we got to go see it, and even then, me included, there's a lot of us that I don't give a fuck about that movie. So
I do. Yeah, I do. It is kind of interesting how they aligned or overlapped like they did, because it really is crazy, because these are really the cinematic and television examples, the biggest examples of both of those happening within 2 days of each other.
Yeah, and
that's really crazy.
And it's the last thing that's been people been keeping up with Game of Thrones for 8 years now, and then people been keeping up with Marvel movies for 11. So it's there hadn't been anything where it's been a cultural thing where it's oh, you still haven't seen Thor yet, and it's and it's well, fuck it, I'm sorry you hadn't seen it,
Yes.
but that's your fault. It's it's the one that's well, damn, I should have watched it when it came out.
It's all so in the firmament of pop culture, both of them, and that it's just so intrinsic in that it's almost like it's in real time. I'm so sorry you got spoiled for you, but we're all else, everybody else is on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to feel bad. That being said,
so yeah,
2
it's
weeks
been
out
2
is pretty
weeks.
good restraint considering.
Yeah. So either way, it's spoiler cast, motherfuckers. So
Also, by the way, you don't have to fucking listen. I mean, all due respect, but
and it'll be in the title. So,
I mean, yeah,
if you can't read
you have
then it's your fault.
You have plausible we have plausible deniability of trying to extricate you from any kind of bad juju, or ourselves, I guess, from bad juju.
Anyway.
I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
Are you a Game of Thrones fan, by the way? Yeah.
It's okay.
Okay.
I keep up with it.
Fair enough. I got questions for you after this.
Yeah.
Anyway, fucking
Endgame.
Endgame
Starts off pretty much right at the end of Captain Marvel, when she pops up and it's where's Fury? And well, no. That was start off with the with Tony, didn't it?
What you talking about? This new
Endgame.
Endgame? Yeah, it starts off with the song "Dear Mr. Fantasy" by Traffic. That's how it starts off, and it doesn't actually start with Tony, right?
That's okay. I remember.
It doesn't. That's not the first visual.
Because I've only seen this once.
I know. We can go past that.
Either way, it doesn't matter.
Give me 1 second, and I'll have that.
It doesn't matter. They've seen the shit.
Point is, the second big thing is with that.
Oh snap!
Yeah, the first thing is it's like the cold open, because you don't even it doesn't even start with credits or anything, and to the point where when it started, when we were in the theater together, I was I almost thought it was a commercial for the Hawkeye TV show coming, because it was just so there was no fanfare to it.
Yeah.
Because then it opens with his family. He's showing his daughter how to use the bow and arrow. They're having a picnic, and then next thing you know is he turns around and they're gone. And then it starts with the Traffic song that I mentioned. And then it shows all of the credits.
Yeah.
And, the logo and everything. And then it goes immediately to Tony on the ship with, what's her name? Nebula.
Okay.
And then the near death, and then Marvel.
Yeah. Now, that whole thing right there, one, I love the fact they went back to the whole Hawkeye's family thing, just to see how they affected, the snap affected everybody, and
and
just
also
what happened in that point in time.
It also immediately answers some of the questions people had of like what was happening to Hawkeye at this time. Like through some people had that because he was never shown or even mentioned in
Well,
Infinity War,
yeah,
and then but it just immediately just goes to it.
which I figured he wasn't gonna. And that's the thing. Like a lot of people kept throwing up things like, I'm gonna tell you now. There's a lot of people keep saying there's plot holes in the movie. I don't think a lot of y'all know what a fucking plot hole is. But anyway,
By the way, have you seen it twice? They do a pretty damn good job with it.
But the thing is though, they said what happened to him. He's been on house arrest. They said that in the Civil War. Like,
and they also just they show
the big
his
ankle
leg.
bracelet.
Yeah, they
so
show
you know
it
exactly what the fuck's going
and they make
on.
a point to show it.
And like, I just like the fact that when he turned around, they're just gone.
It was a really like weirdly elegant way to start the movie in a very I never expected it. I think they expected too of like big loud fights or something, and it really kind of sets the tone.
Yeah, but
and also, by the way, it sets the tone of the themes in this movie being family, fathers and sons. It's all family throughout the entire thing, whether that denotes the Avengers themselves being family, or even at one point, Rocket just saying, "I want my family back," talking about the Guardians.
Kind of. I mean, it's a little bit of family, more camaraderie type of deal, where it's like we are a team. We stick with one another. Like, we're going to make sure we protect everything because we're all we have.
It's fair.
Which, in the grand scheme of things, that's kind of how it is, and they're all of it. But I like the fact that essentially it jumped right off where after they saved Tony and Nebula, and Tony's just tripping. And, he's like, fuck it. I trusted you. We fucking lost. Mm-hmm. That's it. We just lost. It's over. It's done with. It doesn't matter. And
also, he's really mourning the loss of Spider-Man.
Yes.
As his de facto mentor.
Yeah, like, that's the thing. Tony has... Captain America is the leader of the Avengers. Like, that's it. He leads the team. But Tony Stark has been the heart of the Avengers since the beginning. Like, it started with Tony. This is going to be it for him. And it's like, you see that where he was the epitome of the ultimate, like, rich asshole, where he just, I make money. I don't care. I'm the rich playboy. I do what I want.
Billionaire playboy. Yeah.
He's just braggadocious, does everything he wants. And then he learns, like, I'm a fucking war criminal. And he's like, I want to do everything I can to repent from that. I want to make the world a better place. Mm-hmm. And then when he gets on with Spider-Man, he's like, I see the potential in you. I want to see you be better than me. I don't want to see you start out where I am, where you have to repent. I want to see you go and just do the great, amazing things that I know you can do. And it was just like, damn, he really is hurting right now. Like, like I said, like, that was literally the tear moment in the end of in Infinity War for me, was when he sat there and he was holding him and like he just faded off in the dust and like, I'm sorry. And I was like, God damn. So to see him like with this fucking PTSD and he's like, I don't want to do this. I'm done. I done lost everything.
Yeah.
Like, he really has nothing but Pepper. That's it. So
and she had just lost him in Infinity War. Too. It was like that mutual thing of he was allegedly like popping. No, he already popped the question. But of that losing it and he lost, I know the added resonance too with Spider-Man was that he was smart enough to understand what was happening to him as it was happening, which gave it, some added emotional weight.
Yeah.
But, okay, so he's back. He's losing his shit, understandably so.
Yeah.
Very weak. They do the CGI to make him look even thinner.
Which, like I said, Marvel's been doing pretty good with all the aging and CGI. Like, it's been looked a lot better than a lot of the stuff I've seen from other studios.
I mean, over the 11 years and 22 movies, it's improved dramatically over that time. Mm. And they used it obviously quite heavily with the previous film, one previous to this, of Captain Marvel.
Yeah. But then, they decided to fuck it for to go find Thanos. And I like the fact that they, when you see him, it's essentially exactly what he said he was going to do, where he just wanted to go be a farmer now. He's like, I've done my job. I've done what I wanted and set out to do. I did my destiny. So whatever comes forth now, it was my destiny for this to happen.
Yeah.
And Thor went for the head. And he took that motherfucker.
And then Rocket said, "What did you do?"
And, you know, he already told him that he snapped the Infinity Stones out of existence.
So, I mean, he was already hobbled himself after having destroyed them and then sacrificing his arm, basically half his body.
Yeah. And now, essentially, he was, you know, he was walking around like the Elephant Man for the most part. Like, just dragging his legs along. One arm pretty much didn't work. He's over there seasoning food.
Yeah. That's exactly what I realized. I noticed that too. You have the just matter of factly just sprinkling it into the water. And I'm like, man, he really is about that life right now. Living in a hut. He's got his armor as a scarecrow.
Yeah.
He's just farming.
And
I mean, fair enough.
And I mean, that's the thing with Thanos.
Look,
He said he wanted to do what he wanted to do.
There's a nobility about that.
Well, he's the Mad Titan. Like he's mad, but he says what he wants to do, and when he accomplishes it, he's like, "This is what was intended to be." Like he said in the last movie, "I am inevitable." It's true.
And then what? We go 5 years.
Yeah, it's 5 years later, and I love that it just immediately just jumps. Like,
Yes.
Because I was expecting that it was gonna jump right from the end of the movie to like, oh well, we figured out what we can do with the Infinity Stones, and I was hoping for like, no, we're gonna see some fucking trauma. Like these people
they
aren't
really,
right.
To their credit, I mean, as much as I kind of lambasted the fact that it was 3 hours and 58 seconds long, they did let it breathe at times. Like they didn't it just wasn't like we got to resolve this, and yes, they did all that. However, it did give them time to truly set the scene, give an idea where we're at. They mindfully kept the stakes going and building.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, I was saying like, it made it seem like there weren't any more stakes to begin with. That everything was done because because I was like the stones were gone. It's 5 years later, and all you see is people just there's trash everywhere. There's like, you know, abandoned cars, homes, people like you don't really see anybody on the streets hardly. No. And
they give you the perspective of what kind of like what would this be like to lose half the people.
I mean, that's exactly what it's supposed to be. It's like what happens when people are lost, and it's like this is the kind of thing that happens. And you got like support groups, which Steve is like one, you know, leading one of them. Mm-hmm. And it's just the fact is like, damn, you really realize like, okay, it's not just we're gonna jump right back into the story and go figure out how we're gonna save the day. It's like, no, we lost. There is no saving the day anymore. It's like we just have to learn to move. It's like, how do we move forward in our situation? And like, I love that perspective.
Yes, and that's also a reminder too about when they were doing press during like for Infinity War, how, or just after the fact and after it came out, and they're just like, all the creators were like, no, they're dead. You know, the people that died, and which like, you know, in hindsight, and even at the time, like fair, true. That's where we're at right now with this part in the movie. And then, of course, certain things happen. And the people that, I guess, some of them still technically are dead. In the sense that it's not them that comes back. It's the past them.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you had me confused.
I'm sorry.
Okay, no, I got you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway, I feel like I just said a riddle. Unintentionally. Either way, after this, we have, what is it, Scott Lang?
Yeah.
Comes back.
And, yeah, he comes back from the microverse. And he's like, what the fuck just happened?
And for him, it was 5 years? No, for him, it was 5 seconds.
30 seconds.
30 seconds? Okay.
Yeah.
Which ended up being 5 years. We thought he was dead. Everybody did, presumably. Which, by the way, side note, they were filming Ant-Man and the Wasp at the same time they filmed this. So, in that regard, so the thing of, like, thinking about it in terms of when the movies came out, of like, oh, of course, that's going to come into play for this movie, but then it was truly, like, simultaneously they were filming these.
If you saw if you watched the after credits for Ant-Man and the Wasp, that's what happened was he was going into it, then all of a sudden he called back to get recalled, and nobody was there.
Yeah.
So it's like they immediately got both of them right. You know, it was kind of one of those things like, well, how the fuck is this movie going to come out? And we don't know. And it's like, we know it's gonna have to be before, but how does it come into play? And they immediately like jump right into it.
And Brie Larson filmed her Captain Marvel parts for this before she ever filmed the Captain Marvel movie.
Yeah, which I mean,
it'll
be easy.
It's
like,
not that difficult.
Yeah, it's only a couple of scenes, but they, like I said, after the jump, I thought it was weird that it was Black Widow that was still kind of like leading the Avengers.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, like I don't know why. It was just like I wasn't. I think it's because they didn't do anything with Black Widow for the most part, with any of it outside of like being Clint's friend and
she's
Hulk's
always been like very
love interest.
Yeah, she's always been like kind of like
she's an accessory character,
very tertiary.
Like,
but she's also been important just from like the emotional stakes of some things, of like being the friend of this, to your point, being the will they won't they person with Hank, being sad when he's gone. There's not a lot of action, not a lot of meat to the role, I would say.
Well, that's what I'm saying. She could have been, but they just never did anything with her.
But that's the same thing with Scarlet Witch, right? Like they've hinted and they've shown a little bit of like, wow, she can be fucking formidable, but they never do anything like that over a long period of time.
Well, I think it's because they really couldn't do so much with it because a lot of her stuff is tied into X-Men, and yeah, she's an Avenger.
Okay,
but,
yeah, fair enough.
Her dad's Magneto, and there's a lot of other stuff going on. So it's like I don't think they can play up as much of her important stuff.
That makes sense.
Because like her most important storyline has to deal with the X-Men. Period. So it's like they can't really give her much, and she's not a mutant. So
I guess this is where the movie versus comic book comes into play.
Yeah,
because for me it was like, and we'll talk about like maybe her 3-second or like 45-second showdown with Thanos, but she doesn't need a lot of help, if at all.
No, she could be the same way they were talking about how like Captain Marvel is the strongest one. She's in that same category where if she is fully capable of her powers, then she could really just wipe everything out of existence.
Okay, that makes sense. And even in Infinity War, he makes a note to immobilize her, because, and part of that's probably Vision too, but he knows that she'll fuck him up.
Well, Thanos he's about that life. Like he wants to win, so he's not going to give you the opportunity to fuck. Like he's not going to give you the chance. I'm going to win. So it's like, yes, bitch. Because if you remember, he was like, I don't know you. Like, because he had recognized a lot of the other ones because he had seen them, but he didn't know about her at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's right.
And he was like, I don't know you. But then that's when he went back. She was like, well, there was time. He's like, no, child. He's like, no, my child, there is no more time. There's no time for anything. And that's when he went back and reset everything and then took the time stone out of Vision's head. That's right. The soul stone. So it was like, he was like, damn, she got that potential, but nah, whatever, bitch, it don't matter. Like, I'm still going to take it. But,
yeah, he was a man of a singular purpose.
Yeah, and like I said, he was one of the good ones. But, yeah, I like the fact that they did kind of hint also that there might be a little thing going on with Rhodey and Captain Marvel, because that's how it comes out in the comics, which I was kind of hoping that Rhodey gets killed by Thanos in the comics, and I was really hoping they didn't go that route, because I was like, please, Lord, don't kill. I was like, I can't lose him. Not him. It's like we only have a couple of black ones.
He already broke his spine, for God's sakes.
Yeah, I was like, like he's
already half robot.
And I still don't understand how come like Wakanda's didn't fix him up, but whatever. That's a whole nother rant. But
they were too busy taking care of Winter Soldier.
Yeah, which
yeah.
Podcast White Wolf. But
so after that, Lang comes, and he talks about the possibility of do you know about particle physics?
Yeah.
And that's when they're like, we have one guy we know. Then they go to Tony with his log cabin and his child.
Yes.
Who loves him 3,000.
Yes. Who was fucking adorable in the whole thing.
And that was also another full circle element with Iron Man, where he played a surrogate father to Spider-Man, kind of introducing that possible role. And then now he's a father. And it's really come to your point before about full circle from playboy, almost nihilist, didn't give a shit, drunk, billionaire, warlord,
Well,
to this now.
yeah, well, like you gotta remember, in the beginning, he said he never wanted kids.
Yeah.
Like his machines were his kids because he didn't want something. He didn't want to mess up. He didn't want to mess up a kid. Like that was his main thing. So for him to be like, okay, I have a child now. I have responsibilities, and he even told them, I can't lose her. Like no matter what, she has to be here. It's like that's the main reason, and that was his only thing was I messed up with Peter.
Yes.
I lost him. I can't lose anything else. And he's like, she is the most important thing in this world to me. So whatever happens, if she goes, I lose. I don't want to lose. So I was like, I understood his whole point of view was like, no, I understand. Yeah, this could save everybody, but it could doom everybody at the same time. And I can't lose anything else.
Yeah.
We've lost half the world.
But also, and it's very consistent with his character in general, with the way he kind of works towards, protecting from pain.
Yeah.
Which going from not having kids for that to now.
Yeah, I was saying it was kind of like you see his growth still, but
Yes.
he's still in that realm of, because we all knew it, that when they presented the whole idea to him that time travel could happen and maybe we can get this to work, he goes immediately to start trying to do it because at the end of the day, Tony's a hero no matter
Yes.
what. That's the whole thing with the first Iron Man movie. He didn't realize that his weapons were causing that much pain in the world.
And also, I think isn't it part of it coming to the realization that this is all bigger than him?
Well, he's always understood it's always been bigger than him.
Okay.
It's just that if he has the opportunity to make it right, he's going to make it right. It's just that he wants to make sure he gets the best outcome for whatever the situation is. So like I said, when he found out he was essentially, like you said, a warmonger, that's when he was like, I can't do that. I see the pain that it caused. So I have to change that. I have to be a change in the world. When he lost everything, it was like, yes, I understand I might potentially lose something, but if I can keep them here and if we can bring back everyone, even if I am gone, even if I lose in the situation, at least this helped everyone else. It's like he goes from the selfish playboy to the altruistic hero, which he's always been that. It's just you finally get to see him kind of
The fulfillment
express
of it,
that. Yeah. And like when he finally figured it out, it was like, oh shit, damn.
Well, because he says to Pepper, it's almost like he says it in the Tony Stark way of matter of fact of like, I figured it out. She's like, what? But then it's almost like fuck, I figured it out.
Yeah, because it was like,
because then he knew like I've got to see this through.
Yeah, because he already knew he was going to.
Yes.
Like Tony has to solve puzzles. Every time they present him with a challenge, he has to figure it out, and he knows he's going to do something. So it's just funny, but it was like, yeah. I know what the fuck is going to happen.
And at the same time, that's when they're kind of basically now it's the re-recruiting of people.
Yeah.
And so then we find out Hulk has completely become one with the Hulk.
Yeah, he's
Banner and Hulk.
So I don't know whether or not this is supposed to be Doc Green or Professor Hulk, but either way, it's one of those two.
Okay.
And I like the fact that they didn't give us a Hulk movie, but they showed you the Hulk progression.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, in a way, this is another highlight of how good they are at laying out these movies and telling the stories. That it's very easy to have leaned into that and done that Hulk movie. Like that's the easy choice.
Yeah.
And they did to your point of like kind of spreading out the breadcrumbs and laying them out throughout to give a full arc over the course of 22 movies.
Well, Avengers, they just show the Hulk as I'm always angry or Hulk smash.
Yes.
And the second one, it was I'm trying to control it. I want to be helpful. It was like if the Hulk can be of help to someone, I want to do it, but I need help doing it. And then he leaves. Then Thor Ragnarok was, fuck it, I'm Hulk now. And I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to smash shit. Infinity War was Hulk hurt, Hulk couldn't hide.
Yeah, I
And
don't want to be Hulk anymore.
yeah, I don't want to be Hulk no more.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, so how do I live without the Hulk? And then now it was,
And now it's the middle ground of them both being.
yeah, it was like, okay, well, fuck it. I could be Hulk and I could be Banner at the same time. And they found a nice even balance, which I like that. Like I said, they had a story arc within, like I said, a whole line of movies that you didn't have to make its own, franchise. It was just like nobody needs to see a whole Hulk movie, but all the bits and pieces we get of him are enough to make its own story.
And
So,
I really don't. And that's a really smart way to do it.
and I like the fact that even though in the movie, there was a lot of people that lost. Like they're showing people that are, sad, downtrodden, depressed, that are, still reeling, even though it's 5 years later. But the Hulk, who was the one most suffering out of everyone in the Avengers from, the entire list of movies, was the one that was actually winning at this point, where it was like, I've finally moved on. I've made something.
He's
for
finally
myself.
got the relief.
Yeah,
After all this internal turmoil.
yeah, and it was like it's like, yes, we've made a loss, but
Yeah.
I've become myself. I understand who I am now. It's like I'm living my best life.
I do like the juxtaposition of that, of like just the true like role reversal of that. Everybody else is sad and mourning and angst and angry.
But Hulk's
and he's
winning.
and he's taking photos with people.
Yeah, it's like the Hulk is the Hulk,
Yeah.
and they're like,
He's eating breakfast in a diner
yeah, and kids want to
Taking
take
photos.
pictures.
and trying to coax them into taking photos
He has
with Scott with Lang.
Yeah, he has catchphrases.
Yeah,
Like-
it's really. I never thought about it that way. That's
yeah, like
a great
I
call.
appreciated that like, you didn't get, it wasn't just complete doom and gloom. It was like, yes, there's going to be some people that actually came out okay in this situation. It's like they lost, but they're doing all right.
Yeah. And then there's Thor,
Yeah.
and that's where they go to next,
Oh.
to the makeshift Asgardian village in Norway,
Yeah.
and he's as they call him, he's Lebowski Thor.
Yeah. Or as the young kids call him, Thick Thor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought it was funny. Like, I loved
Oh,
it.
I thought it worked really well. And by the way, this is another reminder. Not that I guess if you've seen his other movies, that Hemsworth is a great comedic actor.
Yeah.
He's
He's
just
funny.
a great actor,
Now,
but he's really good at playing that up in
Yeah.
a way that's not overly showy.
yeah, there's been some misses here and there, like the Ghostbusters movie, but
He was the best thing in that movie.
that's not saying much though.
I understand that, but still,
I mean, that's like saying,
look, it's not giving
I-
it much. It's not giving.
I
It's
ate
not
a
giving
dog
credit to
turd.
much. I
It's like
agree.
yeah, I was saying it's like I ate a dog turd.
But
instead
he
of
came out.
diarrhea.
But he came out okay.
But yeah, like I said, in this one, it was just funny that he became like the big alcoholic. He has Stormbreaker, but he doesn't really use it except to pop open tops.
Yes.
Yeah. He's kicking it with Korg, talking shit to kids
He's
on
he's-
Xbox.
He's making kids cry on Xbox. They're talking shit,
I know, like that.
which is really funny.
Yeah, like he's supposed to be the new All Father. He's
What's his
supposed
name?
to be the new
Korg.
leader.
What's his
Korg.
Korg?
Yeah.
And Korg even makes the line of like, he was like, and we got Wi-Fi, no password, of course.
Yeah, like it was.
I enjoyed that
It's
scene a
sad.
lot, but it also but that's what a good actor that Hemsworth is, that there was still the underlying like sheer like a lot of mourning and sadness there too.
Well, yeah, because it's like, he was supposed to be the new All Father. Like, he's the one supposed to be taking care of all the Asgardians, and now he's just fat, drunk, depressed, and
He's
it's
the,
like,
the king that nobody in the village ever sees unless he's going to get more beer.
yeah, like, he's the king without a crown, pretty
Yes.
much, and it's just like, it's a sad thing of what he once was to what he is now, but I just think it is, they played it up for comedy, and I like that at least they still can find, like, the humor in the whole situation where, yeah, it's sad, he's depressed,
Yes.
but, yeah, we can still make some jokes about it.
And then from there we see who is now Ronan.
Yeah. Clint.
Yes. Hawkeye.
And I get that was one of the things I didn't understand was why all of a sudden he just went renegade and was just like killing. Because like that was like I understand, and I don't know if they were trying to allude to this in the original like Avengers or anything else, but like in the comics, he started out as a villain. Like So did Black Widow. So I don't know if this was supposed to be like he used to be a assassin killer for like Shield, and
Whether
he
he
just
became
kind of
that or he's going back to it.
yeah, like I didn't know if that was one of those situations because he was just saying he was getting rid of like bad people,
Yes.
but he was going after the Yakuza, and I was like, but they were like, well, what do we do? And he just didn't give any real reason why. And I was like, I don't get why he just like went off the deep end because his family's missing. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. How did
I didn't get the
and
motivation.
he got there in 5 years, right? Of that trajectory. And how did we get there?
Yeah, like, I really don't understand what his mindset was that I went from I lost my family to now I'm just gonna take out like
Yes.
mobsters and gang. And I was saying I don't know if it was like he just said bad people. So
I know.
don't know
Is it
whether
is it
he's-
because he was hired to do that? So then he's an assassin,
Well, it's
or is it because
no,
he's like?
I know
yeah.
he's not I know he's not getting paid. That's it. He's not getting paid
Okay.
to do it. So that's what I'm saying. Like I don't know whether or not he's like the new Punisher
Yeah.
or if he's just like he knows the underground. He's like, well, I got to get rid of these people for a better world. Like I just don't understand his motivation for the situation.
That's a great call.
But like I knew it was coming because it's like Hawkeye's there. It's like he's one of the original Avengers in the movie. He has to be there.
And they made a point of showing him in one of the trailers fairly heavily.
Yeah. So and I did enjoy like the quick little fight scene they had in Japan. I'm not sure exactly where they were, but like I like the whole
I think it was
scene.
Shanghai.
Yeah, I like that whole little scene. And like he did cut him down, and I was like, that's a little fucked up, but hey, whatever, nigga. Like, you do you.
I mean, yeah, I'm not against you, man. Just don't kill me.
Yeah. And then they end up heading out to meet with everybody else. Widow finally brought him back, so they're going to go discuss about the possibility of time travel and everything else. And I like the fact that they decided to go with. They essentially decided to do what the comic books say happens with time travel, in that, and it's not all of them, but that there is essentially the branching theory, just because it opens the doorway for what if stories, for multiple dimensions, for different things, because they clearly said it that you can't go back. Like you can't go back and change your own future because that wouldn't make any sense. It's like because that means that you would have already seen yourself do this one thing. So there is the paradox there. It's like now you can bring something from that time and go back and put it in place. But when you do that, of course, it's going to create a whole nother reality. It's like it's going to create something different because this isn't your future.
Yeah, and they did that through the prism of calling Back to the Future bullshit.
Which
Fair enough. But this is what. Okay, so just real fast to mention the pairings of what they do. Cap, Iron Man, Lang, and Hulk go to 2012 to get the time and Mind Stones.
Yeah, to
Thor,
the original Avengers movie.
Yes, exactly. Thor and Rocket go back to 2013, which is the Thor movie.
Yeah,
to get the Reality
Dark
Stone.
World.
Reality Stone. Nebula and Rhodes go to the 2014, the scene of the first Guardians movie.
Yeah, the opening for Guardians.
Morag to get the Power Stone. And then Hawkeye and Black Widow go to Vormir for the Soul Stone.
Yeah. So, I don't know if anybody else caught on to this, but if you watch the movie, there's a scene where they're talking about like who's going where.
Yes.
And when they say, Vormir for the whole Soul Stone thing, Scott goes, not it. And I was just like, I know he can't know what's going on, but it's like it was like his Ant-Man senses must have been tingling. Cause
like bad vibes off that?
Yeah, it's like, no, something ain't right about this one. I'm going to keep my ass out of that situation.
It's a nice, for all he knew, unintended wink at what was soon to come.
Yeah.
Which was, if you're betting in Vegas about who's the first major character to die, that an underrated choice would have been the one that won.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, but also like whatever.
But I mean, that was like it made complete. A lot of people had issues with it. I didn't, just because, like I said before, her and Hawkeye are both accessory characters. They were just here just to drive the story along for the most part.
But in a weird way, though, it was very appropriate that that in a weird way, if you think about like accessory characters who never got like the big moment in these movies, and then they're literally fighting each other for who gets the big moment.
Yeah.
In a weird way, in a meta kind of way, it's like kind of apropos.
Yeah. It's like,
No, I'm gonna die. No, I'm gonna die.
yeah, and like everybody said the reason was bullshit, but it's like I understand. Like he has kids. Like, well, he has a family that they made a point of in the beginning of the movie that they're all gone now. She hasn't lost anyone at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like all her people were already dead. She was an orphan to begin with, so the only person she lost was Fury, and she still has everyone else. Like I said, that she cared about. She still has Clint. She still has
Hulk,
fucking
Banner.
Hulk. She has Cap still. So it's like all her people, with the exception of Fury, are still here.
She had technically the least to live for.
Exactly. So it was like it made sense, and
Yes.
it was like you already knew what the fuck was coming, But I enjoy kind of like the whole little action scene with it, where they were just kind of going back and forth. Because at one point in time, I really thought he was about to do it. I was like, oh, really? They're gonna?
I did
It was
too.
like, oh shit, they really pulled the wool, wool over my eyes. I thought he was gonna.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, she did die. But
So that happened in the movie. That was the last of these scenes of the different pairings. That was one of the last one. The last one. But before that, one of the cooler early cool moments was in the 2012 timeline. Cap fought Cap.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Which
prior to that was the Hail Hydra.
Yeah.
Him saying Hail Hydra in the guy when he was surrounded by all the men in the elevator, and they just handed him what he needed. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, which I like they actually did a call back to, like I said, certain things in movies where it's like, okay, he understands what happened now, so I can find my way out of the situation without having to fight. But I like the whole, like, you see, well, I don't know if you've seen the Spider-Man meme where it's, they did at the end of in the post-credit scene for Spider-Verse, where it was Spider-Man 2099 and like another Spider-Man pointing at each other.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, I like that it kind of had that whole situation where it was just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But
I do like that leads to a.
Well, that one actually wasn't my favorite scene. Was actually Thor and Rocket on Asgard, because I like the fact that they finally show back. He got to go and get his, really his goodbyes with his mom, because that was
one of the most emotionally resonant scenes of the movie. Honestly,
and like the one thing that got me was the fact that I guess there aren't any raccoons on Asgard, because the guards and the women that were there called Rocket and Rabbit also.
Yes.
Because that's what I was wondering before. I was like, are there just not any fucking raccoons on Asgard? And no, there apparently there isn't. There's just rabbits. So, but like I like the fact that Thor couldn't do it. Like it wasn't until he got the pep talk from his mom, and she pretty much told him, was like, baby, no matter what, you're always worthy. It's like, you've been worthy.
And the fact that she knew which one he was and everything. She was like, I'm also a witch, and I know more than what I just see.
Yeah, it's like she knows her son when she sees her son, and she's like, you're my Thor, just not my Thor. So
you're my Thor, just not the Thor I know.
Yeah, and it's just like, I love the fact too that he, just to check and see, he called Mjolnir towards him.
Yes.
And then it just hits him right in his hand.
And then he says, I'm still worthy.
Yeah, and because like you can tell the whole time. I think that's the thing. People don't realize the reason he wasn't just depressed because he lost all his people. He was depressed because he didn't think he was worthy anymore.
Yes.
Because the enchantment for Thor isn't on Stormbreaker. It's on Mjolnir. So he's still Thor technically with it.
He needed Stormbreaker to fight with.
Yeah.
As a tool.
Yeah. Like he made Stormbreaker to kill Thanos. That was really it. He was like, I made this for you. And it's like, this is his weapon now. But the hammer was what he thought made him worthy. Mm-hmm. And that was the whole thing, was you're always been worthy. It's like the hammer didn't make you.
But it was just that he already thought he failed, and that's in his mind a confirmation of that.
Yeah, and it was just like his mom had to tell him, was like, hey, you've always been Thor, no matter what. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he's just like, well, let's see. Bam! All right, I got it. And then he heads back.
And then basically that's when he got his mojo back.
Yeah. He finally got that shit together.
Like honestly, I feel like they held back on playing the immigrant song again. Like that was his moment of like, fuck yes, let's do this.
Yeah. Like I liked all the flashback scenes, and so the other one that we got into also was the it was actually the 2014 Guardian scene.
Yes, the Nebula and Rhodes part.
Yeah. And I thought that one was cool because they essentially showed like the time loop that this nebula is seeing what the other nebula
Yeah.
has experienced because they're in the same time. Like,
So Rhodes takes the Power Stone.
yeah,
He's gone. But then she's then got to fucking deal with her still bad sister
yeah,
because she's still bad in that timeline. Her dad, and then also her much more assholeish self of the past.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. This is the not necessarily bad Gamora, but this is just the Gamora that she hasn't met everybody else yet to.
She's the still wounded.
Yeah, she's still planning to kill Thanos. She's just biding her time. She doesn't have any allies yet, and like
She's much more raw at that point.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And like, no, we forgot another one.
No, and then after that, then after all this is when we go back to then it's the kind of the logical pairing of Captain America and Iron Man.
Tony.
Yes, and that's when we're going to 1970 Shield headquarters.
Yeah, back to when essentially they made a Cap.
And this is kind of another thing where it's a moment of, out of respect to everything that both of them have done over this trajectory of all these movies, the actors and the characters, we get a Peggy Carter scene, and then we also get the more resonant of them, which is when he gets to spend time with his father.
Well, it's the thing where they show that the whole time they've been tied together.
Yes.
That,
that's fair. That's a good point.
It's because it was a whole thing where Howard Stark made the Shield. He made Cap, essentially.
Yes.
And then after that, he got killed off. Tony, growing up, tried to figure out what the fuck happened to him because his dad was his everything. And then when they held, whole thing with Bucky, it's like you see how all their ties are, like, no matter what, we're always connected. So when you go back,
almost how it was destiny too.
Yeah. So it's like when you go back, it's their time, it's their moment to say, like, to finally get their closure because they're both. That's what they were both really looking for.
It did more than just filling gaps for them individually.
Because that's like, so Tony's whole thing was, I wanted my dad to be proud of me. I wanted him. I wanted my dad to see that I did great things. That I wasn't just a selfish brat. That I made something with myself. So he finally got that approval at the end. It was like, hey, you know what? You're gonna be a good dude. You're gonna be okay. And then his dad was like, hey, I'm worried. So he was like, okay, my dad was worried too. He was essentially in my shoes. I understand. Okay, we have that closure now. Then when he finally got to see Peggy, he was like, that was like, for him, he didn't get the closure, but he was just like, I understand. I saw what I missed. And it's just like, God, I miss you. But he was like, I understand but it's like, I understand what I'm doing. So he finally got a chance to, head on out.
It's kind of, basically he got the same treatment as Thor.
Yeah.
He got kind of the parental puzzle piece that he was missing. In Thor's case, it was more in the moment because he needed that in that moment to be what he was later in the movie and in future movies, I'm sure. But then it was part of a resolution. I feel like part of this movie, too, speaking to kind of like as a love letter to Robert Downey Jr. and like the appreciation of it, this movie was all about like giving his character everything he could possibly want remaining out of the character to where he has no regrets when he's done playing the character.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
And fair enough. Same thing with Steve Rogers.
Yeah. Which, you kind of have to give it to Tony, though, because the franchise started with him.
No, I'm not saying it's unearned.
No, I'm saying, like, yes. if it wasn't that way, it would feel wrong. Because, True. Like, it started, like I said, if it starts with him, it has to end with him. Like, there would be no Avengers without Iron Man. Yeah. So it's like, if they didn't kind of give it a love letter to Iron Man, it's like, well, damn, that y'all kind of missed some stuff in here. So it's like, I'm glad they made sure to actually get that inside, like, to make sure they put that in play in the movie.
That's a great call.
Yeah. Also, this was the official last Stan Lee cameo. And
which was in the 1970 setting.
Yeah. Which, it wasn't even a sad one, but that was still got a tear in my eye.
It was sad because you knew it was the last one.
Yeah. Like, every time I see him now, it just breaks my heart a little bit.
It's not like the cameo was him getting shot and then buried. Like, we just knew because they told you, and it was the logical. By the way, out of all the movies to do it in, this was the making most sense.
Yeah, it was like it had to be in this one. It was like if he wasn't in the last movie, then it just wouldn't have been right. So
yes,
yeah, it was great. But I like that they, kind of finally got back to the scene and everything else. But they got back into the scene and finally decided to go back in time. And then everybody got back home, and there's no Black Widow, and everybody's kind of sad. And
and they're like, "Where's Nat?"
Yeah.
And then it's she didn't make it.
And it's just like, and even Thor, Hulk, and that's what I said before was Hulk was the most. He won because he was the most well adjusted because he was the one that cared the most for her. Mm-hmm. He loved Nat. Like, even though they were never.
It was very mutual.
Yeah, it was like he loved her, and he was just like, she's gone, but fuck it, we got a job to do. It's like there's more important things, and let's not waste her life.
She died when she died for a reason, and not previously, where he would have been like motherfucker, and would have raged or been sad.
Exactly, but now he's like, let's not waste her death. Let her death not be in vain.
He's in the confident eye on the prize mode.
Yeah, he's like I said, we got a job. Let's do it. Let's not waste this. And
so then, the earlier 2014 age Nebula, she then comes back under the guise of being the current day Nebula.
Yeah.
And then she fucks it all up by hooking herself up to the machine, getting Thanos to come back in his ship.
Yeah, opens a portal. Thanos gets here and blows all the shit up. Yeah. Which was a spectacular sight to see.
Once they fix everything, quote unquote, for a half a second, then he blows it all to shit. Yeah. They show like birds, and Hawkeye gets a phone call.
Yeah, that his wife is.
And then he looks at the phone. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like he looks at the phone and everything else, and he's like, "Oh, it's." That was one of the things that I thought was funny because I was just like, have they just been giving you free phone service for like the last 5 years? Or...
That's a joke I've heard people make too about like, has it been paying that phone bill for 5 years?
Yeah, just like hoping like maybe they're gonna get snapped back or something, but I don't know. But either way, yeah, they get the phone call and like it. I said Hulk made it happen. He thought about it, and that's like you have to have the willpower, you have to have the understanding to use the gauntlet, and this was kind of like his moment, where
and the strength.
Yeah, and it was like this was his moment where it was like, I'm at one with myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm strong enough for this, so he did it. And like you said,
it boils down to I can do this.
Yeah, and like I said, the birds came back, and I thought that was like so nice. It was like everything was right in the world finally.
Yes,
and then boom,
and it was half a second showing that, and then we're back.
Yeah, and all kinds of fucking chaos ensues, and
the entire building collapses in on itself.
Yeah,
Hulk is crushed underneath that, having to get out. Ant-Man's in there.
Rocket's
crushed. Ant-Man, Hawkeye's in there.
Rhodey's, he wasn't in the armor at the time, wasn't he? No. Yeah, so he was. He was. No, his armor was damaged.
He just had his leg armor.
Yeah, so he had to get out of there, and like, pretty much all hell broke loose again.
Well, it's that thing of like, it's them reminding us like, hey, everything's good, and then and we're back down again.
Yeah, and I love the fact that Thanos just got out, and he was just like, they were like, well, Nebula, you want to go prove yourself, baby. You go do the damn thing, and like Gamora, you go do whatever.
Yes.
And they were just like, well, what are you gonna do? He's just like, I'm gonna wait.
I'm just gonna sit here.
Yeah.
Without my armor on, by the way. Like, he had his armor on, but he didn't have. But he had the sword, away from him, just sitting there.
Which, and you notice it was a dual blade that was perfectly balanced.
Yes,
as everything should be. So, but yeah, like he just sat there because he was. The thing is, he's not worried. He's like, whatever should happen, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Whatever should be will happen.
My destiny is my destiny.
Yeah, so it's like, I'm just waiting. And let's say he wasn't fucked up about it. He's like, no. I'm ready. Bring it.
No. And by the way, we also have within the building the moment where Gamora is about to kill Hawkeye. I'm sorry, Nebula's about to kill Hawkeye. Gamora steps in, and that's the reminder of, like, within her there is goodness.
Yeah.
Even though that was the older her who hadn't gone through all of that trajectory yet.
Yeah.
So then we had that.
And then, but then Nebula comes in and bang, bang.
Yes.
And boom. Oh, evil Nebula's gone. New Nebula's
We're back to just less raw.
Yeah.
Okay, Nebula.
We have good Nebula, and then we don't know what the fuck's up with this Gamora. The not trusting.
And this Gamora, we're basically starting back over emotionally.
Exactly. So.
But also, she's alive now.
Yeah.
So.
But then that's when we finally get essentially the big trio, and they finally come down to
Yeah, and they're
get us
standing
in the fight.
above, watching, saying, "You know, it's a trap, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
just making sure."
Like I said, and it's this is the part where it's like everybody was finally waiting for it. Cap
This
got the
is-
shield.
This is like 20 minutes of just fucking payoff.
Thor had fucking Stormbreaker and Mjolnir.
Yes.
And like I said, Tony has a new art. Well, he has his, and that was the other part, was his armor was a callback to one of the original Iron Man armors.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was like, they're pretty much they're giving fan service to comic book fans, and they're giving and everybody that's kept up with all the MCU, they're just giving you everything you should want.
They're pleasing everyone.
Yeah, and they just start fucking getting into it. And first,
And that's where they're tag teaming.
yeah, and the first thing they're doing all right, but then Thanos starts getting in that fucking ass, and like, it's terrible.
He
And,
knocks the fuck out of Tony.
yeah, like Tony's just out the paint.
Yeah. Then he focuses on Thor.
Yeah, because Thor's the big threat.
Yeah.
And eventually he starts wheeling him down and gets him out the paint, and then of course, old Steve comes up to the
Then
comes
we
up the batter
have
box.
one of the true
And-
shit moments.
well, it was the fact that he was putting up such a good fight
Yes.
for so long, and then all of a sudden, they start seeming like they're rallying up against him again, and then he gets a second win and starts breaking that fucking shield apart.
Basically, he gets really annoyed.
Yeah, it's like,
But with that shield, we have the big oh shit moment of Captain America's worthy.
well,
That's
yeah.
that moment.
Yeah, and that was the thing, it was the fact that he does. If you go back and look at the comics, it was just because it was always in his time of need. It's not that he's never been worthy.
Yes.
Because they even hinted at it in Civil War. Well, not Civil War, but Age of Ultron.
Ultron. When
it
it
wiggled.
was the party mode,
Yeah.
and he picked it up briefly and then, oh.
Well, he just made it wiggle.
Yeah,
Because he was the
that's
only
right.
one. Because Vision was the only one that was worthy, but he wiggled it a little bit, and that's
Yes.
when Thor kind of just looked at him like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, because as like Mjolnir doesn't just wiggle. It's either you're gonna pick it up. If it wiggles for you, that means you're worthy. You just don't know it yet.
Okay.
You haven't figured it out. And for Steve, it was, I don't have anything else. I need to do whatever I can. And it was like in his one single moment of need, he finally got it and just whooped fucking Thanos' ass. And I was
And he
here
used
for
it.
it.
He used it to the full extent of its abilities too.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that keep talking about like, well, I don't understand how, he could cast lightning and he could take the hits and, knock him back that far. And it's like, motherfuckers, the incantation, he who is worthy shall have the powers of Thor. Thor is already an Asgardian. He's strong as fuck. He don't need the hammer.
Yeah, meaning it's not unique to Thor.
Yeah, that's like they've already shown you in the last movie. Thor don't need no fucking hammer.
It's like wearing the Iron Man suit.
Yeah, he's the Lord of Lightning.
Yes.
It's like, but if you could pick it up, you could do all that shit that Thor was doing. You're just as strong as Thor is. So it's like he's gonna take it to your ass, and then you see all the circles pop up, and that shit.
That to me is, if we're talking about like my favorite moment, top 3 moments. One, that everybody coming back. I mean, it starts with the Wakanda side. All 3 of them.
Yeah.
Okoye, her, what's his sister?
It was Shuri.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, Okoye came in through
Yes.
with them, but it was Shuri and T'Challa.
Yes.
that were
All
brought
3
back.
of them together.
Yeah, and then you start seeing, Strange. Well, of course, Strange is there, but then you start seeing some of the other wizards coming in, like Wong and some of the other.
Yeah, and you see the
Sanctums.
Guardians.
Yeah, Guardians come back, and then my favorite part, my boy Pete finally came back.
And then they had the reunion. And by the way, as another callback, because they keep doing that, of the callback to that Spider-Man Homecoming, when he's opening the door for Peter, Peter goes to hug him, and he
Yeah.
says, "We're not there yet."
Yeah,
And then
and he's
and
just over here
what's
ranting.
old Iron Man who was mourning,
Yeah, he's just like,
and went through that,
hey,
and he
Mr.
was
Stark,
talking, and he
Mr.
just
Stark,
hugged him.
I don't know what happened. And it was and as soon as he gave him that hug, he's like, oh,
Yeah,
this is nice.
yeah,
That right?
that was an amazing moment.
That got me. That was my part right there. It was just like, what he finally was like, damn boy, I missed you. It was like, I'm so glad you're back. And it was one of those moments where like you got to realize, I hate to say it, it's while he is altruistic, he did it for him.
Mhm.
It was like I have to get him back, and then it finally just kind of jumped back into it. It's like, I love the fact that he gave you the good moments, but it was like, oh no, we're still fucking fighting for our lives. Like,
Yeah.
we ain't making it, because they brought back the Black Order, which I was so fucking. They keep calling the children of Thanos, but the Black fucking Order.
Yes.
And like, I like the fact
And
they
they
brought
were
them back.
they were the first in the initial charge.
Yeah,
With everybody.
which they still kind of got their ass whooped, but
Oh no,
at least you saw them again.
They came back to not be long for this world again.
Yeah, but they did put up some good scenes, especially when it was essentially the reverse of the first Avengers circle scene, where everybody's back to back with everything coming, where it was Okoye, Pepper is rescued.
You talking about all the females? Yeah.
Yeah, well, all the females in Spider-Man, because remember, he was in the crew too. He just
That's
jumps in at
right.
the very end of it. So,
But then you had also Valkyrie on her Pegasus.
yeah,
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, it's Captain
Pepper
Marvel.
Potts.
Pretty much every female that you could think of in that
And
group
that was one of my favorite moments too. I love that.
Yeah, and it was just funny because it was like, and realistically, Captain Marvel don't need none of y'all bitches. Like, she's strong enough.
I
to do it on
know,
its own.
right?
But
Scarlet Witch was in there too.
Yeah, but it's just one of those things. Is like, no, we all got this shit. It's like,
Yeah.
no, we're gonna make sure all this shit is done today.
Yes.
Like,
Oh, and not long after that, Captain Marvel gets her moment,
yeah,
and she destroys that ship just
Yeah.
by flying through it,
yeah, just ruined
and
his whole
to the
fucking
point
day.
of the straight up shot where you can see like her almost like her particle trail.
Yeah.
And she's like going up as if she just Hadoukened it.
Yeah.
And that was a really good shot.
Yeah, it was good. Like,
And then she had a showdown with Thanos as
With
well,
Thanos.
same as Scarlet Witch, where they were all trying to get it to the van.
yeah,
Get to the van with the glove, whatever the fuck they call it.
yeah, it was the nanite gauntlet.
And that was like a cool relay. Kind of relay starting with the Black Panther. And he uses that.
Well, no, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Because
Okay,
remember,
Spider-Man.
because it was with all the
Yes.
when he was with all
That's
the
right.
ladies.
Spider-Man, Black Panther,
Yeah.
Captain Marvel gets at one point. Scarlet Witch handles Thanos single-handedly for a minute. Pegasus takes it with Peter Parker on her back.
Yeah, Valkyrie.
That's right. Valkyrie.
And and eventually it gets back to, no, they drop it and Thanos ends up getting it.
Yes.
And I love the fact that, like, it was Tony. Of course, he
Okay,
has
it has to
backups.
be.
Oh no,
No.
he has backups for everything. Like, Tony always thinks of the impossible, and whatever situation could happen, he's gonna make sure it can't happen. So as soon as he gets the gauntlet, he thinks he's about to make the fucking snap, and he snaps that bitch, and don't a goddamn thing happen. And
But one important point happened right before this.
what was that?
Before Iron Man goes in, right before that part, where he goes in and that happens, that's when he sees Doctor Strange again.
Oh,
And
yeah,
Strange holds up his finger to say one.
yeah,
And the look on Iron Man's face, because he knows what's going to happen.
yeah.
He knows what he has to do, but he also knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, because Strange told him that if I tell you what it
Yes.
is, if I tell you what it is, it's not going to happen, and you won't like the outcome. And the thing is, I kind of saw this coming, and I was like, it has to be Tony.
You know what? I thought about that too. That like, I knew this moment would happen, but they did it. They did it all in such an effective way that it still didn't feel on the nose either. You know, they did it really well. I think.
No, they did it perfectly because, like he said, he couldn't lose. His losing wasn't me dying. His losing was, I can't lose Pepper. I can't lose
Yes.
my daughter. I can't lose Peter again. So for him, I won. There's nothing else for me. It's like, if I die now, it doesn't matter because I've already won the game. It's finished. So all I have to do is get rid of you. And
So he puts
Snap
it
that
on,
bitch.
snaps,
and
and then everybody on the other side starts to
yeah, just
fade away.
crumble off in the dust.
With the last shot being on Thanos,
Yeah.
as he's resigned to his own fate.
And I like the fact that I'm kind of sad that he's not the real mad Titan where he was in love with death, and that was the reason why, because this would have played more into like the what will be, because
Sure.
for him, he wants to die. So this would have been a perfect, like, well, fuck it, I got what I wanted. But I do like the fact that he was just like, okay.
I
I've
do like
lost.
the fact that they also played to the, in a way of like, they went the Friday the 13th route of the evil character, of that it's more menacing, the calmness. You know, like that is more menacing than outward rage and anger.
Yeah,
And kind of like it's more foreboding
because he's
when
controlled.
the killer is walking after you as you run than running after you.
Yeah, because he's controlled and like
Yes.
you don't know what he's going to do. And like it was sad to see him go, but you know it was a fitting end. And then
It tied up. I think they tied it up
Excuse me.
very well overall.
yeah, and essentially the last words for the people that cared about Tony. You know, Rhodey got to say his goodbyes, Pepper got to say her goodbye, and, you know, Pete.
And they had that really good tracking shot
Yeah.
where they ended it by showing like the wreath that was on the water, where it showed that his power core that said
no,
proof
no.
that oh
No, I'm talking about when.
Oh, when they
no, I'm
talked to
talking
him.
about when he's died.
yeah. Well, Pepper Potts said to him,
And-
"We'll be okay," and that's when he died.
Well, it was just the fact that they actually got his. They got his wife, they got his best friend, and then they got essentially his son
Yes.
to finally like all the people that were important to him finally got to say his goodbyes. Like I said, he got his full closure in the movie because he got
Gotcha.
to say his goodbye to his dad that he never got.
Mhm.
He got to say his goodbyes to his
I
wife.
see what you mean. Yeah.
The only thing he didn't get to do was say his goodbye to his kid, which he already had that set up. So that was the thing. Like he was ready, and I like that. And like you said, then when they got to the funeral scene, and they let it go over the lake, it was sad. That part got me a little bit. It
Yeah.
wasn't until John Favreau was sitting there as happy.
We'll get you all the burgers you want.
Yeah, just like what do you want, kid? Like, I want a cheeseburger. Like,
You know, your dad loved cheeseburgers.
yeah, it's like we get all the cheeseburger. I'm not gonna lie. I
Really?
was just like, whoo, Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Hurt
even
my soul.
I did think that tracking shot was really good. The way it also was like the logical progression of who they showed.
Yeah.
You know, Pepper Potts, daughter Rhodey, and then they happy. But then they showed the third to last person they showed was the actor Ty Simpkins, who played the kid from Iron Man 3.
Yeah, that's what everybody kept
Yeah.
asking. I was like, that's the kid from
Yeah,
Iron Man
and then they
3
showed that.
he was helping out.
They showed that, and then they showed standing in the middle of the steps in the cabin was Captain Marvel,
Yeah,
and then they showed Nick Fury,
yeah. Which,
which is the one who started it all.
yeah. And, after all the whole goodbyes and everything else, that's when you see, well, Thor's back in whatever village is in Norway. And
The
him and
Norwegian
Valkyrie-
village to say that.
And him and Valkyrie decide they're gonna, have a little talk, and he relinquishes his whole kingship because he's not a king. He never wanted to be. He was like, "That's not me, but you're a great leader. This is what you should be." So Valkyrie is the new leader of the Asgardians.
He said something like, to the effect of like, it's time for me to be, to stop being who I should be and who I want to be.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing. Thor's always been a warrior. He's always been an adventurer. So he's gonna go do that. He's gonna go explore and be a warrior.
And I think also that's part of where that talk to his mother came into play too.
Yeah.
About just, you're a good man. You've been honorable. You've done what you've said you needed to do and what you should do. But also, it's like maybe there's me time now.
Yeah.
And that's when he goes with the Guardians, and there's a good kind of
Yeah.
like passive power grab between those two, which is a really good scene.
Yeah.
As he put it, the Asgardians.
Yeah. Which I like that they actually made a nod to the comic for the
Yes.
Asgardians of the Galaxy, which I'm hoping they actually might do eventually. Which they'll probably won't have Hulk with them, but they'll have probably some other characters.
Mhm.
But they got his goodbyes, and then it's Buck and Falcon.
Now it's Cap
with,
time.
Yeah, Cap, and he still has Mjolnir, which I still love the fact that he kept Mjolnir.
Yeah.
Since he was worthy, he was like, all right, well, it's yours now. I got Stormbreaker. I don't need it.
Yeah.
So, and he goes back he has all the stones and goes back in time.
But basically, it's basically, by the way, like the Thor thing is, I don't need it because I know I'm worthy of it.
Yeah, it's that no matter what,
Yes.
I've always been worthy. I always will be. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he doesn't need it anymore
No.
to validate that.
Yeah. So he's good to go. So, and, Steve has all the stones and everything else has the hammer and boom, disappears.
That's a good scene. And it
And
says
when he's supposed to
he'll be
come
back in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't show back on the spot.
No, he doesn't show back up at all. And, they're like, oh, okay, what the fuck's going on? And then you see essentially an old white dude with some khaki pants and a blue jacket, your average like movie TV look for old retirement center white dude. And
I mean, it looks like he's about to go play golf.
yeah, and I already knew exactly what happened. I was like, oh, great.
Yeah.
I love it. I was like, old man Steve. And Steve lived his life. he got to go back and, you know, he put the stones back. He got to enjoy his time with Peggy, married her.
I like the fact that the way that it's like in the movie they did right by both Downey Jr. and Iron Man. They completely wrapped his part up, and then they end the movie by wrapping up Steve Rogers.
Well, they did. I think they did right by all of them because, like I said, the big three
I mean,
were
it's
Thor.
fair, but I guess think about they gave the most time to those two in the movie for the wrap up.
Yeah. Well, I think that was because Thor's whole thing was in the middle. They didn't really need to do much because he got his whole thing with seeing Freya again.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't really need to focus so much on him because he already figured it out. Where the other two, they kind of need to really give them. Well, Tony had to get a send off since he was dead, but
and also he was done.
Yeah, and
Chris Evans is done.
Yeah, but I love the fact that you guys kind of sat there and they had the little talk, and he was like, well, they still need Captain America. He's like, I know. He was like, well, who's gonna get the shield? And he's like, I think it fits you. And I was just like, all right, I'm glad they finally. Like, a lot of people were just kind of like, well, I don't get it, blah, 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 this, that, and that. It's like, look, it's comics. They're doing passing of the torch.
Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to be. It's like, these characters aren't supposed to be these characters.
By the way, it's not
forever.
like Captain America's done.
Yeah.
When the first person who played him is done.
Yeah, it's like Captain America, and that's the other thing. Captain America, all these are titles.
Mm-hmm.
They're just names. They're not like an actual person. So Iron Man can be someone else besides Tony Stark.
I mean, point of it is it's more than just a suit.
Yeah, it's like the individual is the one that does these things, but it's like the name is just the name. So it's like
it's the symbolism of what it is.
Yeah, so it's like Captain America is going to be Captain America forever. It's like just I have to move on now. I was just glad that they finally, because that was the whole thing. He didn't want anything else but just to. Really, he didn't even care about trying to get back to Peggy. It was just that when he had opportunity, it's like, you know what? Tony said I should enjoy some of that living. So he finally took his advice.
By the way, the idea that Captain America dies with Steve Rogers is so A, the antithesis of what Steve Rogers is, and B, the antithesis of what a hero is.
Yeah.
The idea that goes and it's like, oh no, when I go to the grave, so does Captain America. And also, to your point about comic books, it's not there are 1,000 incarnations and people that play every superhero.
Yeah,
in all these different runs.
Yeah, it's like, well, not really that many, but
well, I'm just mean over the course of all superheroes.
Yeah,
in comic books, they don't die with the person.
Yeah, it's like Superman died for a while, but there was different versions of Superman that came out. Like the Flash wasn't just Barry Allen. There's Wally West. There's Bart Allen. There's a ton of other characters that pick up the mantle at some point because the original one has to move on. Either they get, and that's the funny thing is I don't think people understand. Y'all want realistic. Y'all keep trying to put realistic ideals and criticism on a movie where there's somebody that can literally control time and space. That,
by the way, it's like
there's a kid that got powers from getting bit by a radioactive spider.
We want to make it gritty and real world. Also, it's fucking silly.
Yeah,
it's like, people in tights.
Yeah, it's like there's gonna be you have to suspend some disbelief, and you can't just well, it's not. You can't put on Citizen Kane's level because it's not supposed to fucking be. It's like
it's just not The Godfather.
It's like there's supposed to be some things in there that are just fun that you're not gonna analyze 100%. And this is one of those situations he went back in time and he decided, and that's he didn't go back in time and then come back.
Yes.
As himself, he went back in time, did everything that he wanted to do in that time frame. More than likely, he probably lived his life. She died. He didn't have anything else. The kids are probably grown if they have children, do whatever, and he's just done.
I think he realized, look, I did everything I promised to do, and it was like, I'm going to live a life, too.
And you got to remember, the original shield was destroyed. Mm-hmm. So part of that, too, was he probably did live his life as Captain America. More than likely, he probably didn't. If he went back in time at that certain time, when he was supposed to, he probably didn't get frozen. So he went back and did everything he was supposed to do as Cap, lived his life, and then brought the shield back because it never got destroyed because of the whole Thanos situation.
Yeah.
So it's there was no real plot hole. It's he just came back, he passed on the torch, and then it's over.
Here's the thing. Even if there was a plot hole, fuck off.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
But I love the fact that when it ended, there was no post-credit.
Yes.
It was just, it was essentially like a little ode to everyone where
They
they
did
would do
the
these little
signature,
vignettes. Yeah, it
which
was a
they did in a
signature with
Star
the
Trek movie.
yeah, and they would do the vignettes of like
Hmm.
all their prominent roles in some of their other movies and everything else.
I do like the fact that in terms of like tying it up and then also calling back to other movies, that it ended with him dancing with her, which is what he said he would do right before he crashed into the ice at the end of the first Captain America movie.
Yeah,
I mean, more than just getting to be with the person he fell in love with,
yeah.
and then he pined over.
He got to do the thing he said he wanted to do.
Yes, and he fulfilled. By the way, like as him being like this paragon of being an honorable, great person, he also fulfilled his promise to her.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
it was just a nice moment and a nice somber but kind of beautiful way to end it.
yeah,
But also, it also was like still true to the character even in that regard.
exactly. Yeah, like I say, it was. They did a really good way.
I thought they did a hell of a job with this movie.
And here's the thing: it's a lot to keep a franchise going for more than 3 movies. It's hard to keep it when it's 22 of these motherfuckers, and for this to be the end of, essentially, this is the end of the MCU. Now there's going to be the next phase, but this is the end of everything that we've,
Yes.
seen and known and grown and lived with for 11
But
years.
here's the thing too that, and maybe it does aid it that it is so close together, but it's not. It's so incredibly impressive to me that they've for the most part been pretty consistent with good quality. I mean, like Iron Man 3 in my opinion, and Thor: Dark World notwithstanding, there were some duds, but for the most part, they did a hell of a job with quality.
Yeah.
And not just that, they did 22 movies in 11 years.
Yeah,
That's insane.
it's crazy.
That's insane.
And the fact that all of them, like I said, even if you don't enjoy them, they've all been a success.
Yes.
Like every single one from the MCU, not including like the old,
Like truly, this is
not including like the old
in
Hulk and everything else, but like everything from Iron Man up until now, they've all been blockbusters.
it's and what they've done in terms of how many they've done, but also the incredible short span in which they've done it. It's all every element and like every part of it is unprecedented. It's really, I mean, and obviously Endgame is unprecedented because it's about to beat Avatar, probably worldwide. It's like 485 million away from it, and it'll make that. Funnily enough, it's not going to break the domestic record for highest gross because Star Wars has that by a mile at almost $1 billion domestically, which is insane. But it just is amazing to me that what they've done, how they've done it. I mean, like, even if you're the biggest hater of Marvel, you can't deny that fact. It's incredible. It's really impressive what they've done.
Yeah, like I said, it hasn't been done anywhere else.
No, and by the way, good luck.
No,
Good luck to anybody being able to replicate that.
Yeah, and with the end of this was the start of essentially, really the end of, I guess, the MCU, or this phase will be Spider-Man.
Spider-Man Far From Home is the trailer that came out this Monday.
Yeah.
Which was when the quote unquote spoiler zone or whatever ended.
Yeah.
Because they themselves, it's dealing with the aftermath of that.
Yeah, and it's.
I have a question about this trailer.
What about?
Jake Gyllenhaal is going to be a bad guy, right?
No.
No?
No.
Why?
Because not. So in the trailer,
Because I know what happens in the comic books. One part of what he does in the comic books.
well, that's the thing. So this one, they're not even going to really be showing because So it starts out with him, with Peter, essentially looking at a bunch of murals, and they're all of Tony and everything else, and it's all Iron Man, and he's going around still saving the day, this and the other. And they even ask him, like, "Are you the new Iron Man?"
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "No, I'm just trying to go and have a good time, be on vacation." So he gets over there, does their little European tour, this and the other, and that's when Nick Fury finally finds him because he's been ditching his calls, and that's when we meet Beck. But they make the mention that after the events of Endgame, because of the use of the stones, is ripped a hole in our universe and our dimension, so that there's a multiverse.
So he's not a fake because we have multiverses.
Yeah. So
okay, I got you.
There is a Beck here, but this Mysterio is
okay.
Because he even says he's like, he said something about, well, blah blah blah. He's like, well, on your Earth, but on mine. So yeah, this is
I
an
got
alternate
you.
reality one. That's the reason why he's not a bad
Okay,
guy.
fair enough.
But
Because in the comics he is, right? I mean, one at least an incarnation of him is that it's all like special effects and using that to
yeah,
rob banks.
yeah, he was a FX specialist.
That's right.
But and that's the thing. I think he ended up becoming one of the Mysterio. The original ended up dying. I think there was one that ended up like taking his place that actually was trying to become a good guy. But I think he ended up getting killed too.
Okay.
But yeah, like, and I guess they're fighting off against the elementals, and I don't know if there's something that's supposed to be from our dimension or the other one.
Gotcha.
But the simple fact that they even already just included that there is going to be alternate dimensions, which leads into the fact that like how they were trying to talk about at the end of Spider-Verse, that there were alternate dimensions already, and then in the other Sony movie was Venom, and how it doesn't have anything to do with Spider-Man or anything else, and they're like, well, how does this all? I think they're actually finding a way to tie everything into place.
Sure.
Where it's like, well, if we want to do this movie, well, we already have the Ultimate Universe now. We can do that whenever we feel like it. We can go see Beck's world and see it might be the inverse where the Avengers are the bad guys, and all the villains are actually the good guys in this universe.
And we can do X-Men.
Yeah, which
Any
that's what
Fox
everybody
stuff.
else is thinking about, is that this is probably going to come into play in how the X-Men will get brought back into the MCU and even the Fantastic Four, which if it happens, it happens. I mean, Fantastic Four is going to be. It's one of those movies where I'm just like, we could probably do without it for a while. But X-Men, though, I'm excited for. And
I just want to see what that'll look like.
yeah, it's the whole fact that like even just with the fucking Spider-Man trailer, they even give out the possibility of, like all this is could happen. I said not that necessarily it will, but just that it can. I was just impressed by that they already took the jump into it, and I love the fact that like this was the movie where it's like, okay, we understand what's going on with these characters and that Tony Stark is gone. There is no more Iron Man. So like they're giving you these definitive like, no, Iron Man is dead. Iron Man is gone. There won't be any more Iron Man. But
they're anticipating some of the lingering thoughts and just taking care of them all out just from the jump.
yeah, because everybody always has these fucking conspiracy theories, and I'm always just like, just wait till the fucking movie comes out. Like you're gonna get your fucking answer then. But like, well, maybe
Or maybe
Tony's
you
gonna
won't,
come
and
back.
that's okay.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It's like
at all.
it's like maybe Tony might come. No, he's dead. It's like the world's moved on, but now they're looking at Peter to be the new heart of the franchise. It's like, which I said it before, Spider-Man is the heart of the Marvel Universe. So it's like this would be the next one where we couldn't get Spider-Man to start out with, so we made Tony Stark. Well, now, boom, we finally got Spider-Man in some capacity. We can make it work.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they're finally kind of getting over to it. I'm more excited now about Spider-Man than I was the first time I saw the trailer. Like the very first trailer I thought was good, but like this one I was like, okay, I'm ready for it.
And also, it just goes to show you that even within the trailers, they knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
Like that they're even playing those of like, we're going to tell you that this is here just to remind you. Here's this initially. We're going to give you the broad strokes. But then also, we're going to, before the trailer, tell you it has spoilers because it deals directly with it. And then also, we're going to give you an idea of how it fits in as maybe truly being the last movie of this phase.
Yeah, because that was the thing. Like they could have gone out. They still shown a lot of the same exact thing from the first trailer that they did in this one. All they did was add a couple of like 3 more scenes and then add a little bit more things in for context. It's like you could have fucked up like a lot of companies do and just throw it all in the very first trailer. It's like, no, you thought it out, and then finally when Endgame came out, I was like, okay, let's give it a little bit of time. Let's think of it. All right, if you don't want to know what happens, it's like if you hadn't seen Endgame yet, then just turn this off.
But that's the thing, though. They're getting smarter as they go along too.
Yeah, because they don't. They realize like how big these things are. Is like I said, these are cultural events. It's like I don't want to ruin it for you, so let's not ruin this for them. Let's give them an option. You want to see what happens? It's all up to you, but we warned you.
I think that's also another good byproduct outside of everything. All the success and everything that's been handled up to now is Kevin Feige being a true comic book fan and knowing what comic book fans want and not wanting to disappoint them.
Yeah.
Real fast, I'll be real quick. Phase 4 films will include, currently, we've got Spider-Man: Far From Home, which is the ending of Phase 3. We're gonna have a Black Panther 2, possibly with a Namor the Submariner involved. That was mentioned in the movie, talking about that there was an earthquake under the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
Okoye mentioned that. Guardians 3, which in theory could involve Adam Warlock, as was teased as one of the 5 endings for Guardians 2.
Yeah.
Also, the OG Guardians as well could be involved.
Which, I mean, it could be they might do, they might actually do as Guardians of the Galaxy.
Which would be really interesting.
Yeah.
So there's that. We got Shang-Chi, which is going to be filming in the next year, probably. The Eternals, which has a director, Chloe Zhao, who directed a movie called The Rider from last year, which is fantastic. And right now we have actors in theory, Richard Madden, Angelina Jolie, who in theory will play Cersei, Kumail Nanjiani, and Dong Sok Ma, who is from Train to Busan, is right now listed as 4th actor in it. A Black Widow movie, which has Scarlett Johansson in it, but I think it's just going to be a prequel. Because it has Florence Pugh in it. It would not surprise me if she plays a young Black Widow, because that would actually make a lot of sense. So I think that is something. And they have actors like Rachel Weisz and David Harbour on that movie right now. Rachel Weisz feels like she'll be a perfect mentor role to a young Black Widow. Honestly, I could see that. Maybe not.
I'm just trying to figure out what they're.
I don't know. That movie's absolutely happening, though.
I mean, yeah, I already know it is. It's just I don't know what they can do because they have some stuff that they can do with Black Widow. I just don't know whether they want to go that route.
Sure.
Like, because the last comic they had where they actually killed her off, they brought her back, but it was a clone. Essentially, her consciousness was downloaded. There's more than one Widow. It's just that they kind of made mention to it in one of the other, I think in Age of Ultron, when they were talking about how like she couldn't have kids and that she was a monster. And they were talking about like the Red Room. Red Room was a training program for Russians.
Yes.
And like they only had so many girls that actually got into it that survived, but like essentially you were like the elite of elite assassins, but there was only so many of them. But whenever they got killed off, their consciousness were already like be uploaded into another clone body that they already had.
Okay.
So that
interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
So that way that you still they might only be 15 widows in the world, but those 15 widows are always here until until they run out of bodies or something. So
that's interesting.
I'm thinking they might go if they go that route. I'll actually enjoy it because it would be one of those things where it's like I experienced death, I died, but I didn't realize what was going on. It's like now I'm going to be here for God knows how long because I don't know how many bodies are around. I don't know how many are staged. I don't know if I'm really me.
That'd be interesting too, because like Florence Pugh is going to be a movie star. Like no shit, she's a fantastic actress and has carried a number of movies already. So if she were to be next in line, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, still wish they changed a couple of actors and actresses for some roles, but I think they've done pretty well for everything they were shooting for these movies. Yeah.
And the last movie they have like listed on any level is Doctor Strange 2, which Scott Derrickson, the original writer-director, he's back for that.
Okay.
So, I mean, that makes sense.
Oh.
I mean, pretty much got that down, I think.
Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Yeah?
Yeah. Outside of that.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to do recommendations or the 2 movies I saw real fast?
Yeah. You go ahead.
Okay. So I saw The Long Shot, the Scott. I almost said Scott Derrickson again. The Seth Rogen, Charlize Theron movie.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah,
it was fun. I mean, and the whole movie is like that she's the Secretary of State. There's a dumb shit president who gets all of his notes from the head of a Fox News-esque conglomerate, and he's a moron who wants to become an actor. So the president, so that's possibly topical depending on your perspective. But she's going to run for president. She needs a speechwriter. It happens to be the guy she set when they were in high school. And then they fall in love. It's a romantic comedy. It's it was fun. It had some funny moments. It also had some weird moments that were a little off-putting. But yeah, I mean, it's fun.
I mean, would you recommend it?
Not to everyone, maybe to some people. I think it's one where like I'm so like whatever about it
Then
that
no.
no that I'd be like sure watch it. I mean it's like it's so fine either way that I mean sure why not watch it
Yeah.
whatever. Uh, Weirdly enough, the second movie, Detective Pikachu. What a weird sentence to say, Detective Pikachu. Saw that last night.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I really did. It really was like so much better made than it had any right or reason to be. Which I know I feel like it's like prefacing it as if to say like that.
Yeah, I don't understand
No,
that. Like,
okay. No, what I
that
mean
don't make any
is,
sense. It's a movie. Like, it
I know,
should be
I
good.
know, no, I know.
All
well,
movies should be good.
I know, but and yet there are many that aren't.
There aren't. But
I'm just saying that in a world where like the two Jurassic World movies, they're ticking all the boxes they had to, but the movie still fucking sucked. This movie, to be successful, didn't have to be good. That's what I mean. And it's just really well made. Like they film it at times like a detective noir
Mhm.
and like really interesting lighting. And they build a world. The CGI is fantastic. Like especially the Pokemon with hair, the way they did it, it is so impressive. And the Pikachu itself, I guess, is so well rendered and so well made, and they do such a good job of like animating the emotions.
Mhm.
They did a hell of a job, and they
See,
have some twists that you kind of don't see coming. Like you think you see, but then they kind of hit that beat, but then they do something else, and it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
and so I was actually looking forward to going to go see Detective Pikachu. So
I recommend it.
yeah, because I was planning on going to see it. Like as soon as I saw the first trailer drop, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna definitely go watch it.
Yeah, I really dug it, and again, CGI is really well done. I mean, the actors, everybody did a good job. Justin Smith did a great job in the lead role.
Mm.
Previously he was in that last Jurassic World movie, which is one of the worst movies I've seen in a while. That
Yeah, it
movie's
was terrible.
terrible.
Yeah, it was a waste.
And he did a great job in the movie. If you like Ryan Reynolds, he does all the same stuff he always does. You'll like it. He does the witty quips and stuff, and he talks a lot. And some of the jokes are kind of like hokey or corny, but it's what you expect from a movie like that. And some of them are funny. And they don't deal with the movie of like as like like saccharine moments of learning experiences.
Mm.
Like a kids movie, but they like death happens and it's like somebody dies, and it's just handled in a way of like this is death. It's not pandering to children. It's not just doing like arbitrary handholding,
Okay.
and so it's not off-putting if you're somebody who is older than a child going to see the movie. And I think it kind of hits the beat. It's trying to be inclusive to everyone, to where you have moments of like oh shit moments if you're a fan of Pokemon and want to see them in action, but then it also is going to surprise you if you don't know what Pokemon are and get to see them in action because it's like really cool action on top of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I really dug it.
All right. Well, I hadn't seen any movies lately, but I've been listening to quite a few albums and things like that. But the one I really had to recommend would be Lizzo, "Cause I Love You." Which thing is, I'm a big Lizzo fan.
She's a badass.
I loved her music since my friend Elizabeth put me on to Lizzo with Coconut Oil, that EP, and ever since then it's just like, fuck it, whatever she drops, it's great. And this one was one of those. Her songs are always like fun. Her songs are like they're funny, but they're funny in like she has a message, and it's not like one of those I'm gonna beat you over the head with a message. Like a lot of people talking about the tweet she put up about how somebody says she's so body positive, and she was just like, bitch, I'm just happy being me. I'm not trying to make some shit about being body positive. Like, you should be body positive, but I'm just happy. I'm fine with who I am. And it was like, you could tell that in her music. And like the one song she had that everybody's been playing has been Juice. Love it. But my favorite song right now on the whole album is track 16, I think, and it's called Tempo. And that one has her and Missy Elliott as a feature. And that's like, again.
Oh, I heard about the song, but I haven't heard that song.
Yeah, and I'm a big Missy fan. So their sound fits together for me. Like, listen to Lizzo and then hearing Missy on the beats.
That's a hell of a power combo, too.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I understand. It's like, yeah, y'all should have been doing this a long time ago. You should have gave me this 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for that one. And
I think she's a badass.
yeah, she's was it Brooke actually went to go see her in
Yeah.
Nashville?
2 or 3 days ago, went to Nashville and said it was the best show she's ever seen.
I know. I was so sad.
I don't
didn't
doubt
know
that
anything
either.
about it. I was a little heartbroken. It's like if I had known, I would have.
I didn't know she was that close. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I would have tried to make it. But and the other one wasn't an album; it was a song. But it was The Weeknd, SZA, and Travis Scott. "Power Is Power" that came out for Game of Thrones. I think it was 2 weeks ago. Whenever the Battle of Winterfell came out, and
I haven't heard that song. I'll have to check that out.
it's the Travis Scott part is kind of like the weak link for me, but it's one of those things where if you actually kept up with the show, the lyrics kind of convey everything in the song, but if you listen to it, like, it's really good beat, really good melody, the voices play well together, but I like how it still tells you everything that's going on with the story, and even if you've never watched the show, like, you can still kind of understand what they're talking about because and the whole thing is power. If you hadn't seen it, then there was a scene in season 1 where Littlefinger was saying that knowledge was power to Cersei, and Cersei surrounds him. She just pretty much snaps her fingers, and all her knights surround him with swords drawn, and he's like, "Oh shit, I'm about to die," and she just walks up and casually says, "Power is power," which is true. Doesn't matter whether it's intelligence, it's money, it's wealth, it's power. Any type of power is power. So, but yeah, that one, really like that. I think they're actually doing like a whole EP for the final season.
There's a whole album out.
Okay, that's what I thought, because I was like, I saw something where it was another song that came out, and I was like, I wonder if they're supposed to be doing this for the last season.
Yeah, there's a whole album out for it. And I don't know if it's a thing, I'm looking it up right now, whether it's like they released all the songs or they're just making them available as the episodes air.
Yeah, they hadn't released all the songs.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Yeah, because Power is Power was the second one that came out. There was another one that came out beforehand that I was like, yeah, it's okay. But, yeah.
There was a Florence and the Machine song. That's what it was.
Yeah, that was the one that was like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking that up, but yes. I have a couple quick recommendations. One, it's a movie that I saw, I don't know, like 3 months ago. It's on Hulu now, The Sisters Brothers. And it's a Western that stars
John C.
the
Reilly.
titular sister brothers, played by John C. Reilly and Joaquin Phoenix. But it also has Riz Ahmed and Jake Gyllenhaal in it. And it's a quirky Western. I really liked it. I think it's really good. And I highly recommend that. Also, there's a documentary that you'd have to rent it right now on Amazon, but it's really interesting, called The Great Buster. And it's about Buster Keaton. Just as him being kind of one of the more underrated, unsung heroes of the silent era. And it goes through his life, just as you would expect from it being sung by Peter Bogdanovich. And goes through his life, but then in the last 20 minutes, it gives it more of an analysis of the 10 movies he made, 10 feature-length films he made in 5 years, and it's really interesting. And it made me want to watch all of his stuff. Like, I knew of him, and I watched a little bit of it, but some of the stuff he did was incredible.
Okay.
And it's really interesting. Also, the Vampire Weekend album from 2 weeks ago, Father of the Bride, is really good.
Okay. I don't think I've probably only heard like maybe 2 or 3 Vampire Weekend songs.
I'm a big Vampire Weekend fan, but this new album is fascinating, and it's also not officially but ostensibly, basically, it's a double album.
Okay.
And so it's 59 minutes, and it's like 16 to 18 tracks.
Okay.
And they're all really interesting.
It's weird that we had double album.
But in this era, it is. I mean, they're saying that basically it's a double album.
It's like I said, that many tracks, you can put that on a single album, especially only for an hour. Like, whatever. Yeah.
Or maybe it's that it's a double album relative to what their lengths normally are.
I mean, is it like a concept album?
No, not officially.
Okay.
I mean, it's like the sound of the songs they go off to different routes, but they sound similar. I mean, it's almost like they're doing kind of like, they almost sound like their version of like the Grateful Dead, in a way. You have to hear it. It's hard to describe.
Okay. I was just weird. I was like, okay.
I know I just described it probably in the least appealing way possible, but it's a really interesting album. I like it a lot.
All right. Well, yeah. Outside of that, Anthem's still garbage. Hadn't played Division 2 and about to drop $250 for Borderlands 3.
Oh yeah, you're all in that.
Yeah. Outside of that, I ain't got shit else.
No. Oh, I got something next week.
Oh, what you got next week?
John Wick 3.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot John Wick 3.
Oh,
comes out
buddy.
next week. Which,
And Tyler's new album comes out next week.
yeah,
I'm all about it. Whatever it is.
I kind of want to see what he's coming out with, but I'm hoping it's not some fuck shit.
Yeah, I don't know I truly don't know what it's gonna be. No concept, but I mean, after Flower Boy, I'm all in.
That's the thing. I'm never all in with him just because he's so
Cantankerous.
I hate to say it, but he gives me kind of like those Kanye vibes.
No, I think that's very fair. No, like
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, I'm saying I'm all in to listen to it. It doesn't mean I'm just like I'm gonna love it no matter what. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, like he's one of those artists who's like, man, I'm kind of like Flower Boy gave me some hope, but I'm just like, I know it's like I know what you've done before, and it's like,
no, the
man,
image.
I hope you don't do that again.
The image I get is, I just imagine him being like, "Oh, you like that? Fuck you."
Yeah, so I'm hoping he doesn't do that shit.
That's what I think he's gonna do. I just feel like that makes so much sense to me.
And I listened to Schoolboy's album, but I want to give some more time with that one just because he said that he dropped. Well, he recorded 3 different versions of that album. So I want to see if I can at least find the other 2 and check those out because so far I love that album. There's a couple of songs on there where I'm like, it's okay, but I want to go.
I'm curious about all the iterations.
Yeah, but I want to give myself a little bit more time with it than check out those other songs, like
Sure.
those other versions of it. But yeah, so
Okay.
yeah, that's it, folks. We're done for the day.
Man, God bless you if you stayed.
Yeah, you'll be all right until another 2 to 3 weeks.
Probably.
Bye, folks.
Bye bye.